I've worked street sanitation in Brooklyn for almost 12 years. Parades, protests, blackout nights, you name it. July 4th is our Super Bowl. My crew calls it Ash Monday because that's what your boots look like the next morning: black powder from spent fireworks, melted lighters, burnt hot dog wrappers, and mountains of red, white, and blue garbage. This year I pulled the overnight shift. My daughter was pissed, but it meant overtime. Rent just jumped again, so there wasn't much of a choice. The shift was routine until I got assigned to the South Street section around 2:15 a.m., near the underpass by the Brooklyn Bridge. They're tearing up some of that area for a redevelopment project. Barricades, half-demolished lots, scaffolding no one actually uses. Creepy, but I've cleaned worse. That's where I saw the crew. There were 5 of them, all wearing Navy work vests. Not NYSD uniforms, plain. No logos. They were unloading black crates from an unmarked white box truck. No license plates. Not even temp tags. At first, I figured they were contractors. Late-night utilities. But I'm used to the rhythm of this city. How people look when they're working versus when they're doing something else. These guys weren't talking. They weren't sweating or laughing or complaining. Just silent and fast. One of them looked up and stared right at me. Then he nodded. Not like, hey. Like he recognized me. I turned my card around, pretending to look for another pile. I radioed dispatch and asked if anyone was scheduled to work utility overnight near Lot B, south of the bridge ramp. They said no. That site was supposed to be dead until Monday. I gave them a brief description. They told me to stay clear and keep my camera off. It's probably Homeland, the dispatcher said. Sometimes they do training. That didn't sit right. These guys weren't training. They were staging something. They rolled one of the crates into a side tunnel entrance, a low concrete access corridor I'd only ever seen padlocked shut. Except tonight it was wide open. I didn't go home after shift. I rode the queue back and forth twice, trying to figure out what I'd seen. Something about the crates, their silence, the way they worked like they had a time limit. It felt surgical. But that wasn't the part that got me. The part one couldn't shake came around 5 a.m. when I walked back toward the sanitation garage. That same white box truck passed me. Different direction. No crates in it. Empty. Driver rolled his window down just enough. He was alone now. Didn't say a word. He just held up something. My ID badge. The backup one I lost last winter. Still clipped to the broken lanyard I used to keep in my locker. I reported it. Formally. I filled out a hazard observation sheet and attached my notes. I even told my union rep. No one followed up. It vanished into bureaucracy. July 5th came and went. Nothing exploded. Nothing hit the news. But that's the part that started eating at me. Where was the boom? That area they were working in, that tunnel, it sits under the route of the fireworks barge. If something had been planted, it would have been under tens of thousands of people, right as they were all looking up. But nothing happened. So what was the point? I kept checking incident logs, missing persons, leaks, chatter, anything that might match what I saw. A week later, I found a forum post from some kid who tagged a photo of a small plastic fuse half-burned under the pedestrian overpass near the same site. He thought it was leftover debris. I don't think it was. A fuse burns after something is lit. This one had been snuffed out. Like someone changed their mind at the last second. 2 weeks later, I'm working a recycling route on Eastern Parkway. A black garbage bag burst as I'm tossing it. Soda cans spill everywhere. I start scooping them up, cursing, and then I see it. Inside the bag is a vest. Navy blue. Plain. No logo. Same kind the crew wore. Stuffed in the chest pocket is a folded piece of paper. Not addressed. Just a high-res printout of a photo. It's me and my daughter, taken from behind, watching the fireworks over the East River. You can see my sanitation vest. You can see her little glow stick crown. You can see the exact time from the barges on the river clock, 9:28 p.m. Printed across the top in red Sharpie. Cancelled. Too visible. They aborted the mission because I was there. I saw something I wasn't supposed to. But instead of killing me, they decided I was useful, a deterrent. A witness. Every time I take out the trash now, I wonder which bags aren't mine. And I've stopped watching the fireworks. I'd only been assistant manager for 3 weeks when the 4th of July shift landed on me. It was that awkward moment where you can't say no, not when you're new, and especially not when you're trying to convince yourself that this job, this tiny leap to assistant, might lead to something permanent. A career, even. So I told everyone it was fine. Let the others go enjoy their cookouts. I lock up solo. It was just a local branch of a big box store in Bolingbrook, Illinois. 8 aisles of camping chairs, bug spray, snacks, and firework bundles that cost more than my weekly groceries. Nothing about that night felt special at first. Just humid air and those mosquito-sized fireworks you can hear but not see. The parking lot emptied by 9:15. I was scanning the end caps, waiting for the system to run its last price sync, when I saw movement on the security feed. 3 figures. They walked in through the automatic doors like they owned the place. I hit the speaker system. Store's closed, folks. Fireworks are out of stock. No reaction. They kept walking, slow and deliberate, their heads turning toward each camera. Each wore a cheap rubber mask painted like the American flag, exaggerated smiles and hollow eyes. 4th of July spirit, apparently. I moved toward the exit gate and grabbed the door key off my belt. My heart was racing, but I'd worked enough late shifts in Chicago to stay calm. Usually it's drunk teens. Sometimes bored kids looking to record a TikTok. But these 3 weren't recording. No phones. No laughter. The one in front stopped about 15 feet from me and said, "We're here for the clearance." I didn't respond. I didn't move. The second one, taller, said, in the back room, "Fireworks crate, code 93Z." That's when the cold kicked in, not fear yet. Just that sense that you're suddenly in a conversation you never agreed to have. There is no 93Z crate. We don't have coded inventory like that, just pallets labeled by barcode and vendor ID. I told them I didn't know what they were talking about. One of them, the third, silent until now, pulled out something long and wrapped in red cloth. When he unwrapped it, I saw the handle of a bolt cutter. The first guy lifted a phone, not to record, but to show me something. A screen capture of a scanned invoice. The name on it was mine. My employee login, timestamped a week ago, signed off at 2:03 a.m. They said, "You signed the delivery. You opened the manifest. You scanned the crate." I didn't. I was homesick that night. There must have been a swap. Someone used my login. I told them as much. That didn't matter. The tall one stepped toward the gate and whispered, "If you didn't know what it was, then you shouldn't have signed it." I backed up fast. Hit the panic alarm on my key fob. Nothing. The system was down, likely disabled. I had no way to know when they'd done it. The store felt different then. Too quiet. Even the air conditioning was off. I heard one of the men shuffle behind aisle 6, party supplies. I broke toward the break room and grabbed the emergency fire axe mounted near the exit. I didn't even think. I just ran toward the back hall, heart hammering. I figured if I could make it to the employee entrance, I could cut across the dock and get outside. But the door wouldn't open. It had been chained shut from the inside. That's when it hit me. They weren't robbing the place. They weren't stealing money or product. They were covering something up. Whatever crate they were after, it wasn't supposed to be traced. And my name was on it. I went low and crawled behind a stack of folded lawn chairs. I could hear them talking now, muffled but angry. One said, "She's a loose end." It was supposed to be clean. That was enough. I surged toward the supply closet and slammed the door just as one of them spotted me. I barricaded it with a metal cart and started scanning the shelves for anything useful. Spray cleaner, plastic wrap, a roll of aluminum flashing tape. Nothing useful until I saw the backup radio we kept in case of power failure, the old CB model. I keyed it on, praying it wasn't just for show. Anybody out there? This is Nicole Rivas, Bolingbrook branch. I'm being attacked. The power flickered back on. The light surged to full, and the door handle turned. They didn't speak anymore. They just started cutting through the door. I raised the axe. I wasn't trained for this. I wasn't even a real manager. I sold sunscreen and set up plastic coolers. But in that moment, the only thought I had was, they're not here for the fireworks. They're here for me. When the door splintered, I swung hard. Hit one in the shoulder. He dropped. The others pulled him back, yelling now. I took the chance and bolted out, barefoot, because I'd lost my shoes when I ran. The employee lot was empty. The street was quiet. Nobody heard me screaming until I pounded on a neighbor's door 2 blocks down. Police showed up 10 minutes later. They searched the store. No sign of forced entry. No men. No masks. No crate labeled 93Z. Inventory showed nothing unusual except a gap in the security logs from 8:58 to 10:04 p.m. That's exactly when they were inside. I showed the cops the axe, the broken closet door. Even the invoice screenshot burned into my mind. But the log showed my ID had signed off a late delivery the week before. Right time. right signature. They told me it must have been a glitch. They told me to take some time off. I haven't returned to work. I don't even drive by the store anymore. 2 days ago, I got a text from an unknown number. It just said, "Clearance confirmed. No witnesses logged." Then the number disconnected. I tried to trace it. Burner phone. No signal history. That night, I checked my bank account. A deposit had landed at 3:17 a.m., exactly $100. No sender listed. I never told anyone how much the masked man offered me that night, but it was exactly $100. And I think that was my receipt. My neighbors asked me to watch their property while they drove up to Minnesota for the 4th. Kelly and Reggie. Good folks. She teaches special ed. He manages the feed store. They just bought the place last year, 3 acres on the edge of Denton County, one of those patchy lots with a half-fenced field and a dry creek cutting behind the tool shed. They were worried about kids lighting shit off in the field. Last week, some high schoolers set a brush fire about 2 towns over. So I said sure. I'd swing by twice a day. I didn't expect to spend my 4th sitting on their back porch with a half-dead citronella candle, sipping warm Dr. Pepper, and watching the moon rise over the soy fields. And I definitely didn't expect to catch 3 grown men digging a hole on their property. I first saw them around 9:45 p.m., when the popping of fireworks was steady but distant. No one local was launching, too dry this year. I'd stepped around the side of the house to check the shed lock when I caught movement near the old fence line. Flashlights. 3 beams, sweeping low. I ducked behind the rain barrel and watched. The men weren't teenagers. All wore work jeans, gloves, and ball caps. One had a vest with reflective stripes. Another carried a shovel over his shoulder like he'd been doing it all his life. They moved straight for a patch of dirt about 30 yards beyond the field gate. No hesitation. No wandering. They knew exactly where they were going. They worked quiet, fast. One dug while the other 2 scanned with lights. They didn't talk, but they weren't nervous either. That's what chilled me, the routine of it. Like this wasn't the first time. After 5 or 6 minutes, the digger stopped and stepped back. Another one knelt down with a pair of heavy gloves and started brushing the dirt aside with his fingers. I heard something metallic, a scrape, then a thud. He'd found something. They didn't take it out, not right away. The 3rd guy reached into his coat and pulled out what looked like a compact camera or maybe a scanner. He passed it over the hole like he was checking for something. That's when I started backing toward the porch. I slipped inside and turned off the lights. Called Kelly's cell, no answer. Reggie's? Straight to voicemail. I thought about calling the sheriff, but what was I gonna say? 3 men are digging in your field and I have a bad feeling? Instead, I crept up to the attic, where the small west-facing window gave me a full view of the lot. They'd hauled something out. A long, narrow bundle wrapped in black plastic. It took all 3 to lift it. That's when I saw the oldest one, short, bald, heavy build, step back and wipe his brow. I recognized him. He used to live here, 20-something years ago. Name was Darrell or Darnell or something close. I remembered him from back when I did septic installs. He was quiet. Moved away after a fire burned down the back part of the property. No one was hurt, but he just left. That bundle? It was his, and he'd come back for it. They loaded it into a beat-up Dodge Ram, no plates, and pulled off with headlights off. I stayed frozen in that attic until every echo of the engine faded. Then I made the dumbest mistake of my life. I went down there. The hole was still open. Fresh dirt, some plastic scraps, a zip tie. Smelled like rot and motor oil. I didn't stay long. Just enough to snap a picture and grab one of the tags they'd left behind. A little laminated punch card with faded ink. Said, 5 of 7, Site 2A. I bagged it in a sandwich bag and stashed it under the porch. Next morning, I went to show Reggie's brother, who works for the county roads crew. But the tag was gone. Bag torn open. Porch hatch undisturbed. And that night, I saw someone walk through my backyard. Not sneaking, not running, just walking, slow and steady, until they reached my shed and disappeared behind it. The cops didn't believe me. Said maybe I imagined the men. Or maybe it was kids after all. I showed them the picture of the hole. They said, hard to tell what that is. I told Kelly and Reggie when they got back. They acted nervous. Reggie got real quiet. Said maybe they shouldn't have bought this place. Kelly kept glancing at the back gate like it might open again. They moved out 3 weeks later. I keep my lights on now. I don't go near the fence line. But every July 4th, like clockwork, I hear tires crunch down the old gravel access lane. Not loud, just enough to notice. And once, just once, I thought I saw the same bundle, black plastic, long, heavy, being carried past the soybean rows. They're not digging anymore. They're delivering. I was 3 deliveries away from hitting my July 4th bonus when it happened. I remember that clearly, not because the night started strange, but because it didn't. Business was slow after 9 p.m. once the fireworks started. Most people had already gotten their food, and the rest were probably too drunk to notice the app still worked. I was doing it for the multiplier. DoorDash had some promo running. Hit 15 deliveries on a holiday and get an extra $100. I'd done 12 already. The next 3 were supposed to be cake. Instead, I ended up delivering something that wasn't food. And I've been scared to open my glove box ever since. It was just past 9:40 when I picked up the order from a taco place near the edge of Ybor. The restaurant looked closed, but the manager, short guy, thick glasses, too clean to be working grill, handed me a sealed paper bag and said, "Make sure this one gets there fast. No substitutions." The receipt was weird. No item names, just a long number in place of the order ID. 0704-9393, E&D. I shrugged it off. People are eccentric. I was tired, and my phone showed the drop-off location as just 4 blocks away, behind a strip of old pawn shops off Nebraska Avenue. When I pulled into the back lot, I didn't see an address. Just a white van parked near the loading dock of a closed mattress outlet. One of those low buildings that looks like it's been going out of business for 5 years. A man stepped out of the van and waved. Didn't come close. Didn't speak. Just pointed at my car, then at the van. I should have left right then, but I didn't. I walked the bag over and said, "Delivery for 9,393. He nodded. Opened the van's side door. Inside were 3 things. A plastic storage bin the size of a suitcase. A stack of what looked like used UPS shipping labels. A printed sign taped to the van wall that read, "Final package courier drop, level 1. He didn't look at me. He took the taco bag, passed me an identical-looking brown bag, and said, "Same instructions. Building on 56th and Armina. Handoff only. Use the code." "What code?" I asked. He just tapped the bag. I looked down. The same number as before was scrawled on it in black Sharpie. 0704-9393, E&D. My brain couldn't figure out what was happening, but it also didn't register danger. It was too weird to be scary. More like a scavenger hunt designed by a crazy person. But I took the second bag, and I drove to 56th and Armina. The drop location turned out to be another loading dock. Same kind of fake business storefront. Dusty windows, sun-bleached banner for Gulf Office Supply. The parking lot was empty. No lights. No people. I parked 2 spots from the side door and sat there for a full minute, waiting. Then my phone buzzed. Text from a number not in my contacts. "Code." I replied. 0704-9393, E&D. 10 seconds later, the back door creaked open. A woman stepped out. Mid-30s, athletic build, all black clothes. No logos. She had a scar running across her cheek and a tattoo on her collarbone, a circle with a diagonal line through it, like a band sign with no words. She said nothing, took the bag, walked back inside. I asked, "What is this?" She didn't stop walking, but as she disappeared into the shadows, she muttered, "You didn't see anything." I got back in my car and sat still for a long time. My app still showed the order as in progress, even though I'd clearly handed it off. I tried to cancel. Error. Tried to end the dash. Error. Tried to call support, disconnected. I drove home with the windows down, heart racing but not sure why. No one had threatened me. No one had hurt me. It wasn't fear yet. It was more like static in my head. But then I checked the payment log. That last delivery paid me $0. But the promo bonus had already landed. $100 deposited 15 minutes early. It shouldn't have counted. I hadn't hit 15 yet. The next day, I woke up to 4 missed calls from an unknown number. Voicemail transcription was blank, just silence. Then I noticed a package sitting on my porch. Brown paper. No return address. Inside, a single black USB drive and a folded piece of paper. The paper said, "You passed. Stay quiet." The drive was empty. Or maybe it wasn't. I didn't plug it in. I took it straight to a dumpster behind a Rite Aid 3 towns over and buried it under spoiled milk cartons. A week later, news broke that a former city network administrator was found dead in his condo. No foul play, ruled a suicide. But the story made Reddit because he'd allegedly been working on a private security flaw in Tampa's water monitoring system, something he claimed could be exploited remotely. The date of death? July 5th. Time of death? 2:13 a.m. Roughly 2 hours after my second delivery. No one mentioned a courier. No reports on the food bag, the white van, the building. The city swept it clean. But I know. I was the in-between. A ghost link in someone's chain of deniability. I deleted the app, changed my phone number. But once a month, always on the 4th, I get a push notification from an app I've never installed. No name. No icon. Just a prompt that reads, "Ready for the next run?" I never tap it. But I also can't make it stop. I booked the farmhouse because I wanted quiet. Not the polite kind, the real kind. No neighbors, no fireworks, no TV in the background, no kids fighting over the Xbox. My ex had the boys for the 4th. First time in 3 years I didn't have to pretend I loved sparklers and hot dogs and long drives back from someone else's backyard. I told myself it would be good. A little peace. A little breathing room. The listing looked ideal. Restored historic farmhouse in rural PA. Quiet hours strictly enforced. No parties, no fireworks, no guests. It even had one of those badges, Superhost for 23 consecutive months. What I didn't expect was how serious they were about the quiet. And how fast everything fell apart when I started asking questions. The house sat alone on a patch of overgrown land about 10 miles outside Punxsutawney. No cell signal. No visible neighbors, just hills, trees, and silence that felt overcorrected. Like the land wanted noise but wasn't allowed to have it anymore. The hosts lived on the same property. Their house was about 100 feet uphill, tucked behind a row of sugar maples. I met them once, Ed and Patrice. Late 50s, polite, firm. He had the deep, unbothered voice of someone who didn't tolerate nonsense. She had eyes that stayed too long on yours, like she was measuring something behind them. They welcomed me, pointed out the key box, explained the wood stove quirks, and reminded me that quiet hours begin promptly at 9 p.m. I said, of course, and laughed politely, assuming it was more of a noise ordinance thing. Maybe they'd had bad renters before. But on my second night, I realized something was wrong. I was reading in the sunroom around 8:50 p.m. when I heard the back porch creak. Not heavy footsteps, just the subtle wood shift of someone standing still. I looked. Nothing there. At 8:58, I heard the front doorknob turn. Softly, like someone testing it. At 9 o'clock exactly, the entire house made a small clicking sound, like locks sliding into place. I hadn't touched anything. But now, the front and back doors were both bolted. I stood up to check and saw the porch lights blink twice, then shut off. I hadn't set any timers. I called up to the host house, no answer. Tried the landline inside the farmhouse, but it rang endlessly. I figured it was just automation. Maybe they had smart locks synced with the rental schedule. Still, I emailed them to ask. The next morning, Patrice responded with 3 words. Quiet hour protocols. That was it. I replied, I don't understand. Are the doors locking automatically? Is that part of the stay? No response. The third night was worse. At 8:47, I stepped outside to water the basil plant near the back deck. I heard movement uphill. Not animals, too coordinated. I saw 2 silhouettes standing just outside the tree line between the host house and the edge of the gravel road. They weren't talking, just watching. At 8:58, my phone buzzed with a push notification from an app one didn't remember installing. Quiet hour begins in 2 minutes. Prepare. I opened it. Nothing but a black screen with a countdown. When the timer hit 0, the screen flashed white, then closed itself. Then I heard the lock slide again, and this time, I saw the back window shut itself. I tried to leave, but the car wouldn't start. The battery was fine. Lights and horn worked, but the ignition wouldn't turn. Like something had jammed it. I got out, popped the hood, and froze. Sitting on top of the engine block was a printed photo of me, taken from behind, sitting in the sunroom the night before. Timestamped, 9:02 p.m. Underneath was a typed message on yellowing paper. All guests observe quiet hour. Your compliance ensures your safety. I stayed up all night. Lights off. Knife from the kitchen in my lap. I didn't hear anything else, but I kept imagining someone in the attic. Someone in the crawl space. Morning came. I emailed Airbnb support, but the page froze when I hit send. I tried again, but the listing was already marked as no longer accepting bookings. I finally walked up the gravel path to confront Ed and Patrice. Their house looked abandoned. I knocked, waited, knocked harder. Then I heard it, that same soft click of a lock engaging. Behind me. I turned and looked down the path. The farmhouse doors were closing. I ran back down and got there just before it locked again. I tore through my bags, found the emergency burner phone I kept in my toiletry case. It had no contacts, but it still powered on. I dialed my sister and left a voicemail, just in case. If anything happens to me, check the hosts. Ed and Patrice. Western PA. I'm at a farmhouse rental near Punxsutawney. They don't like noise. Something's wrong here. That night, no creaking. No door handles. Just dead silence. But sometime around 2 a.m., I heard someone whisper my name from the vent. Just once. Calm, clear, and male. I left at dawn. Walked 6 miles until I hit a gas station with a working payphone. Called a cab, gave the address, didn't explain. I never looked back. A week later, I checked the listing again. Gone. Deleted. The host profile? Still there. Still 5 stars. New listing. Rustic River Bungalow. Perfect for remote retreats. Different town. Different photos. Same wording. Quiet hours strictly enforced. No fireworks. No guests. I left a review on a travel forum, not Airbnb directly. A warning. Vague but honest. A few days later, I got a reply. Another woman. Different name. Different house. But she ended her message with this. They only get mad when you talk about it. Just pretend to sleep and be very, very quiet. I haven't stayed in a rental since. I haven't celebrated July 4th since either. Because every year at 9 p.m., no matter where I am, I feel it. That quiet. That heavy, watchful quiet. And sometimes, I swear I hear that voice again. From behind the vents.